I believe we're recording now.
Yep, I see the blue dots.
Nice. It's coffee. Nothing like coffee when you're super sweaty from outside. Hot coffee.
Hot coffee.
So, did you have any topics you wanted to talk about, Deej?
Any topics? Yeah, no. You know, funny enough, I didn't really come in with anything. I just was, I mean, practice has been going well.
Oh, that's good, man.
Yeah, still, practicing frequently throughout the day, getting into seclusion, multiple times a day just to, just practice Anapanasati. So that's very, very nice, It's pretty chill to be able to just be like, oh, you know what? Can feel good and don't need to have any stimuli for that. So, yeah. And sometimes there comes that wow factor where it's just like, wow, you know what? We really can do this. We really can feel good with without anything going on, just by thinking one wholesome thought after another, breathing well, and just being cool with the way that things are, coming back to, hey, this is good enough.
Yeah, speaking of relaxing, I'm just going to take off my socks. But yeah, I went yesterday, man, I've been exercising a lot and walking in nature. Yesterday I did 3 hours. And then today I did 2 hours. I was going to do another hour later, but I don't think I'll have time. But that's okay because my body was very tired after today's session.
After the fencing.
Oh yeah, that was after I walked for 2 hours and I was trying to fix their fence. I did pretty good though.
Mm-hmm.
I had this wood, but it just stood out too much because their fence was like brown and this is like almost white wood, almost. It's just like that tan pale color, light brown. And so I painted it really fast. I added some extra effort, but I'm glad I did because it looks so much better. If it was just light brown, it would have stuck out like a sore thumb. So I'm glad I did that. But yeah, I notice when I'm walking, like today I was thinking about this, but sometimes I find myself, I'll get in a destination kind of finish line goal oriented mindset, like, oh, I'm walking to this location, it's going to take me this amount of time. And I find when I fixate on that, the whole walk seems rushed. The whole walk seems like work. But when I'm just, hey, relax, man. Maybe we won't even do that route. Take it as it goes, one foot in front of the other. Then I notice everything is so much more smooth. And then the walk actually goes by because I'm enjoying myself more. The walk tends to seem like it's going by faster, which is awesome. Because I've done some short walks where I was too fixated on the goal and it seemed like forever. But yeah, yesterday I did 3 hours. It was a long walk, but it went by smoothly. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's
thank
good
goodness
to get
for
out.
my amazing sati abilities. No, I'm joking. My amazing sati powers transported me through time and space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. That is one of the interesting things too. I like to mix it up here in terms of practice and while walking, because I'll kind of go around the block and kind of walk at a little bit of a faster pace for exercise, but also every so often I like to practice more like a slow walking meditation, and that helps to really bring out like what you were saying, where you're not worried about the destination. And in that case, you're just going back and forth, you know. You're not even what, maybe like 12 feet or something, 12, 20, like it's not, you know, very, you're just like pick a path and you just go back and forth. And
Yeah.
like that's something where, you know, it's great for yeah, developing that, where it's just like, oh yeah, you know what, don't need to go anywhere, don't need to do anything, every single step is the destination, and like coming back to that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like to mix it up too, so like also going for, you know, more faster paced walks around the block is also nice. And yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I like medium. Like I'm not rushing. I kind of tend to walk a little normally fast, so I just go my normal pace. And it's like about 3 miles I do in about an hour. I don't know what that converts to Canadian mileage. Kilometers or something. Or stones or whatever you guys use.
Kilometers, stones. Yeah, I think
30
stones.
stones.
Yeah, I think that's a weight thing.
Stones, fish, miles, kilometers, all the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I love walking in nature.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and so silent. And it always, I probably said this before, but it always reminds me when I lost my voice. And I was like, wow, you know, so much of the world's trouble is because we just have the ability to talk. And when you talk normally, you kind of tend to get yourself into trouble by, oh, I think, you know, I don't like just sitting here. I'm going to say something. And it's like, why do you have to say something? It's like, usually that saying something in societal language comes into complaining or talking about things or talking about other people sometimes or complaining about your own life and all this stuff. Yeah, when I lost my voice a while back when I was sick, I remember thinking like, wow, the only things I really missed were being able to sing and then tell my children I love them. Aside from that, I was like, uh, I could go with that. I mean, conversations with friends, of course, is uh, the main things. I was surprised were just singing and telling my kids I love them because they need proper encouragement and stuff like that, of course, when they're growing up. But aside from that, I was like, man, this silent thing is wonderful,
Mhm.
you know, because it's like you stop fooling yourself for once. It's like, oh, there literally is not much to say about anything. Except for what expressing the Dhamma, because a lot of people are not familiar with the teachings of the Buddha or Buddhadasa Bhikkhu or Dhammarato. So talking about the Dhamma is very beneficial, very wholesome, helping people. And what are we trying to help people with? Like the Buddha said, dukkha dukkha nirodha. Um, there is dissatisfaction and a way out of dissatisfaction. There's a way to gladden the mind here and now with the Eightfold Noble Path. And we remember, look and change, congratulate ourselves, rinse and repeat, and thereby turning any bad situation or perceived bad situation into a good situation. Basically, if anybody's hearing this for the first time, our teacher, I'll call him a teacher, he likes to be called wise friend, Dhammarato, he says, don't worry, be happy. And that basically sums up the entirety of the Dhamma. Is to don't worry, be happy. Can you be happy here and now? Can you gladden the mind wherever you are, wherever you sit? Because like Dogen Zenji said, if you can't find peace right where you sit, right where you are, where do you expect to find it? But in this case, we could even change our perception and our mind, feelings, thoughts, and emotions with nurturing speech, nurturing actions, wholesome speech, wholesome actions, and and transforming them, having the power to change them. We don't have to passively let them. We don't have to passively let them carry us away like sails in the wind. There is something we can do about it. We can change course if we get anxious, um, because we're getting in the habit of remembering to look throughout our day in a balanced way, not doing it too much where it actually causes more dukkha, causes more dissatisfaction, but just gently reminding ourselves, gently remembering to look throughout our day. It's usually not difficult because the dukkha itself is the greatest reminder. Because you're like, man, I kind of feel like shit. Oh, I should remember to look at this now that I've noticed that. And then it gets easier as you get in the habit, and you build a nice kind of momentum. Um, so when you see it, you say, okay, I'm dissatisfied. But if I come back to my breath, you can see that whatever I'm worried about usually lies in the past or the future. I can see whatever I'm worried about exists only here in this illusory realm, the realm of samsara, the realm of birth and death, liking and disliking, being and becoming. And I bring it gently back to the breath. Oh, everything's okay right now. Everything's fine. There's nobody here who's going to hurt me. There's nothing bad here. And then we just remind ourselves, we feel good right now. There's nothing to be afraid of. If there was actually something to be afraid of, our biology would take over. We wouldn't even have to worry about that. If a tiger came in here, my biology would probably fight or flight like everybody else's, and in this case, probably flight. And it's automatic. And it's such a blessing that so much of the things of these bodies are automatic. Because if we're identifying with the permanent self that's attached to a body, um, we think we're kind of these little gods in the universe. But the problem with that is like these little gods with their stories and their dramatic theatrical lives have a lot of dukkha, have a lot of dissatisfaction. But when you see yourself as not a permanent self, when you see the body is just a natural functioning part of the Dhamma, a natural functioning part of nature, you don't have to attach to it too much because there's really no difference between my body and DJ's body, or our body in a tree, or our body in the sun or the universe. But when we start identifying solely with this character, solely with this body of a permanent self, then we're experiencing all the karma and negative bad habits attributed with such bodies. But if we're not thinking about it, if we're satisfied, there's no distinction between being and becoming, liking and disliking, birth and death. There's no distinctions between the tree and myself, the sun and myself. In a way, it all becomes one. It all is one. It all is the Dhamma. But if what's very important is our inner chatter, and how inner and outer chatter and actions, and how we're communicating with our mind, how we're perceiving the world around us. And when we're satisfied, everything fades away. Really, Buddhism fades away. You don't care about monks or robes or this teacher or that teacher or what you perceive to be yourself. You don't care about right or wrong, or even words like the Dhamma or good and evil. There's just silliness. And at one point, sure, those things are very helpful. But eventually, when there's satisfaction there and you get into this kind of unification type of samadhi state, bringing the whole methods of the Eightfold Path together, remember, look, and change, rinsing and repeating, it becomes easier. You get in a kind of groove, and you don't worry too much about stuff. You know, your mind becomes cool, like the movie Cool Runnings. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
No, really? About the Jamaican bobsled team? It's
Oh,
bad. It's the best movie. Highly recommend anybody to see it, because it will definitely gladden your mind if you watch that movie.
Mm.
Ah, gosh, that's good coffee. So, what say you, DJ?
Yeah, you seem to cover a fair bit of it. Yeah, yeah, no, just yeah, it's interesting, and I think very helpful coming back to that compact way in plain English, explaining the noble method with remember, look, and change, and yeah, making a wholesome change in speech, actions, and thought, right? So, and just making that discernment, right? And it's good to come back to with that, yeah, not identifying with it, to see, okay, the futility of that identification with those, but to simply be like, oh, okay, this thought has arisen. I like to think of it too, like with that, like it's like a menu, right? And so if we go to we're going to a restaurant, right? And they have up on the board like all the different menu items. Just because there are stuff on the menu does not mean that we have to then go and order that item off the menu. And I think this is how sometimes it is with the thoughts when folks identify them. It's just because a thought came up. Folks are like, oh, we have to identify with that thought. That's my thought. I have to order it and buy into the content. And the truth is really you could be buying into, or you could order that item, or you could order another item. Maybe you could order an item that's a little bit better than the one, the Duca sandwich, you know, that's filled with greed and hatred and all that, right? So it's like noticing that with the thought. So it's like, okay, yeah, we're not the thoughts and they arise and cease, but it's good to be able to be like, hey, you know what? If there's a lot of thoughts that are coming up or thoughts are coming up of that is going to kind of come back and condition the mind. So, and we can make a change. It is possible. It just requires, sometimes a little bit of effort, but that effort does pay off. It's worth it, just to keep, applying, and then also to put in the right effort to back off, right? It's not like this has to be, super tense or anything, but just, light coming back to it. Okay. It's really the effort to rinse and repeat, like you're saying, Dhammadasa, of like coming back again and again. And that's what I notice. It's like that effort is the repetition of it. And that's the other thing too, is because oh yes, talking about how, the dukkha, how really the sense that, hey, there's something off here, right? And it's like, okay, why is there something off, right? And more through wisdom, through the continuing of the practice, it's seen that, oh, well, that's because there's, craving, wanting something to be different, being averse to something, like noticing that and being like, wait a minute, with the dropping of that, with the letting go of that, okay, cool. It's all cool again. Everything's all right again. It's okay, right? But yeah, that's the interesting thing. It's just like even the most subtle, there's something off, get seen, and that's the beauty of it. So it's just like, oh, it's so nice to actually rest in this satisfaction, or with this satisfaction, with this security, with this safety, with this ease that is available, here and now. And yeah, so
Yeah.
very grateful for the practice and yeah, the teachings.
Yeah, you said that wonderfully, man, because it's, yeah, like you're saying, it's so easy to float off in our mind and make the practice something that's other than right here, right now. Even when I do these calls, like I always say, like as I kind of get more comfortable in the beginning 5-10 minutes of the call, I've been getting in the good habit of, you know, of remembering to look like, hey man, I'm feeling a little anxious. Let's relax. Let's Take a deep breath. And then it's like, oh, this is the practice. Wherever you are, wherever you sit. And it is so easily missed to a degree or from a certain perspective, but in actuality, it's the easiest thing in the world to ask yourself the question, how do I feel right now? How am I feeling? Checking in with yourself occasionally and saying, oh yeah, I could be more satisfied. I'm pretty satisfied, but then what a glorious thought. Like, good enough is okay, but then what a glorious thought. I feel like I could be even more satisfied, but not just a concept in the future. As you say that, you are more satisfied. As you remember to look and change. There it is right there, because it's like you may have a toothache, you may have this, you may have these worries, these problems. But as you say, this is good enough. After you experience that dukkha, you're like, wait a minute, I could get even better. Like just saying good enough is okay transcends me here and now, changes me here and now. Like the evolving Pokemon. Like my daughter likes. She loves to collect those Pokemon cards. But yeah, everything changes. Nothing stays the same.
Yeah.
And if we cling on to anicca, dukkha, anatta, if we don't see things as they are, then we won't be satisfied here and now.
Yep.
We won't learn to remember, look, change, rinse and repeat. And it can be something that can be over analyzed, something that can be over intellectualized. Oh, hi, bud.
Yeah, welcome, Rulas.
Hey, how are you guys?
How's it going, dude?
Doing great.
Nice. What was your name again?
Raul. My name is Raul. Bro.
Raul.
Raul.
Oh yeah, Raul.
Yeah. However you would like to call me.
Is it? It's not. So it's not Raul. How do you say it?
Raul. It's Hispanic.
Oh.
Well, Germanic.
Okay. I thought I said the first time. I was questioning myself. So, you've been talking for a while. Do you have any topics you're interested in discussing, or any questions or anything like that?
No, not really. I'm here to spend time with the Sangha.
Spend time with what?
With the Sangha. With the
Sangha. Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is spending time with the Sangha important? Importante.
Yeah.
Why is it important, do you think?
Well, it definitely makes me feel a lot. The most important is it makes me feel good. Like it makes me share the chilling time. Like, well, no one around me practices any kind of chilling. Like, so to even if it's virtually, to spend time with more people that like to chill and talk about wholesome topics and more. If I don't have to be separated by some semantic stuff, it feels great.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by societal standards in modern times, I find that chilling out for younger generations, particularly, some even, well, for all generations, really, a lot of people with who may look at things in a not so wise way may think chilling out is getting drunk, getting high, doing drugs, going to parties, going to Burning Man.
Yeah, that sounds very hot, doesn't it?
Yeah, Burning Man. Very, Very, very hot and dusty. Apparently, I've never been there, um, but I find a lot of people these days could use a little help by learning to chill without drugs or without alcohol or without a need for blasting music and dancing and excitement. It's not that all these things are bad. It's just using them in a not so skillful or wise manner can lead to great dissatisfaction, addiction, not just the addiction to the substances, but the addiction to constantly seeking entertainment.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, like I do
yeah.
constantly.
Same.
Oh, that video was a whale eating a shark. Oh, what's the next video? What's the next video? You know? And it's a good reminder that even if we don't have all those things, you can be perfectly happy. You can be perfectly content. And sure, those things can be fun once in a while, but for the most part, I recommend for anybody interested in the Dhamma to abstain from any substances whatsoever, and especially alcohol and weed. But I'm not like, don't do that, don't do that. But I definitely think a lot of people could benefit from seeing that you can have the same, not even the same, a different kind of joy from living a sober, simple life.
And then actually, um, I forget the word. Like a joy you can access instantly without the need of
Yes,
like
yes,
right now. Like I have it right now. Like I don't need nothing else.
yeah. You don't need anything else, and that's a wonderful place to be. Because the real addiction can be, in a way, the dukkha itself. Always, it reminds me of that quote from Jim Morrison. He said that people tend to love the chains that bind them.
Mm.
They love their chains. They love their fetters, and a lot of it's because of the negative sankharas, the negative habits. They don't even see them as habits. They see them as the way things are. To them, that's just normal. So it's always good when I'm observing the world that I try to remind myself that at uh, at one time that was me and can easily be me again if I didn't uh, remember to look and change things in the moment and gladden the mind here and now, learning to look, change, and to rinse and repeat, and the congratulating and coming back to the breath. Oh, everything's okay. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Everything's fine. Everything's great. And it's okay if there's silence. It's okay if something profound isn't being said. It's okay. It's good enough.
Mhm.
Mediocre babble is good enough. I like thinking about how and I've said this in other videos. Let me know what you guys think of it. It's amazing how when it comes to Buddhism and the Dhamma, how we can look, a lot of people can get wrapped up into uh, the Pali Canon and looking at the Buddha's words and dissecting them, trying to decipher what was said, what wasn't said, and we're all speculating because we weren't, there 3,000 something years ago. But I always take great comfort in knowing that we can read books actually written by Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, and we can see videos from Dhammarato himself, and we can see videos of DJ talking. And if we listen to what they say, like the Buddha said, if you don't just blindly believe in something, you hear what people are saying and you put it to the test yourself, see for yourself if what they're saying is true. Don't just take their word for it because it sounds pretty or it sounds like compelling. But actually, in that part, I like to view the Dhamma practice in it's like a science. Like if DJ says, "Hey man, if you feel dissatisfied, try if you can to get in the habit, if I'm interested in listening to him say this, which I am, like try to get in the habit of remembering to look and see if there's dissatisfaction there. And if there is, give yourself some nurturing speech, nurturing wholesome actions. Talk to yourself. Say everything's okay right now. There are no monsters here. There are no soldiers here who I'm in trouble with. Everything's fine." And get into that habit of doing so. And you would be hard pressed to find anybody who, if they're pursuing that earnestly, doesn't immediately find some benefit almost right off the cuff. You say these things and it's like, oh yeah, because what's the difference between somebody who is got this very negative energy who's complaining all the time and somebody like Dhammarato? What's the difference? Immediately one can see the difference in the energy, of course, but also in a more kind of practical manner. It's the language. When you hear Dhammarato talk, he's not complaining about what happened last week. He's not complaining about these dogs running around. He's not complaining about the weather. He's not complaining. But what is he talking about? He's talking about wholesome things. If he's confronted with something, I've seen him nurture not only himself but others with very peaceful language, bringing us back, our attention back, right to the breath, right to the realization that we can do this, gladdening the mind here and now, saying everything's okay. All those things that you're worried about, all those questions you have, all those answers that you're seeking aren't really necessarily important. All these jhana stages you want to get to, all these terms like arahant or abbot or whatever, who cares? Enlightenment, who cares about enlightenment? We're all enlightened already. And when we stop seeking these things, like we're seeking like one of those racing dogs chasing those rabbits at the racetrack, they let the rabbit go and the dogs chase him. When we stop chasing all these things and start to realize that we can gladden the mind here and now, all those things become secondary. They become just, it's no longer a snake we're afraid of. We see it for what it is. It's just a silly rope, nothing to be afraid of, nothing worth seeking in this world whatsoever. What do you think, Raul?
That's a great art. Yeah. Well, that's the base of the practice, right? And one thing I love about the first time I talked with Dhammarato was that he actually took all this Pali Canon and all. He told me like, okay, so you have read this, and this, and are you able to let those all you have learned go? After I told him, yeah, like sure, that's why I'm here, right? Like to actually learn something from voice to voice. So he actually showed me the practical way of doing things, of actually noticing that I'm right here, right now. Like not even the Buddha who spoke those words is here. Like he didn't even wrote the Pali Canon. He just spoke it. And so one thing that also stuck to me stick to me was this is it relevant that the Buddha ever lived? If I can be
Yeah.
happy right here, right now, like is it even important to actually know if he was real, if he existed or not, or if he was just something I don't know, someone created to just to make people feel good? Like, is it even relevant if I can practice it right here, right now? Like, if I can free my mind from all these things that tie me to the dukkha that keep taking me back to it, because it's like my natural conditioning from the place I was raised, from the conditions that I was took. Like, oh, I need to chase this. Like, I need to have money to be happy. I need to have a yacht to be happy. I need to be on the beach and actually be able to recognize that, because it's really like you said, right? Like the enlightenment is just it's there. I don't need to do much. Like, just recognize it. Recognize that I don't need all the things to. I don't need money. Sure, like it's useful, but I don't really need it to be happy. I don't need it. I don't need to be in the beach to chill out. I don't need to be just like right here, right now. I'm safe. I'm out of danger. There's no tiger hunting me down, so I can also look around and be like, yeah, there's nothing going on. Like, I can just sit right here, right now, and
Yeah.
enjoy the moment, because it's actually really peaceful.
Yeah. And on one hand, we can, in a realistic way, we can say, sure, there was a guy named the Buddha. He was wonderful, and we're all very grateful for him. And when you're not attached to the man, where it would cause any dissatisfaction, if you're reading the Pali Canon, learning the beautiful Buddha's words, we would not be even practicing the Dhamma if it wasn't for him. So in that sense, we're all grateful, of course, um, for Lord Buddha. But on the other hand, yeah, he is a man, and he wrote down things, and he was brilliant. Or he didn't write down things, his followers did. I'm sure in his lifetime he did write down things. Let's just put that out there. Who doesn't write anything? He was an upper class. I'm sure he wrote stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as the Dhamma stuff goes, mostly his students did. And but at the end of the day, it's like we can be grateful, and when we come from it, from a wise place, yeah, you can read the Pali Canon and memorize the words and learn all the lingo, and that's a beautiful, wholesome activity. And even doing things such as praying to the Buddha and stuff like that, I don't mind that whatsoever. I love doing stuff like that. Even though some people may think of it as kind of mundane, but if I'm satisfied, I don't really care what other people think. I think it's a wholesome activity, just like breathing, because the concept of it is to get away from the liking, disliking, being and becoming, birth and death, to get away from this dissatisfaction where all that stuff stems from. So when let's say I am kneeling before my little Buddha statue here, there's not a concept in my mind of I'm literally prostrating before the Buddha. There's no thought in my mind of he's a god or isn't he a god? He's a man or isn't he a man? Is he me or isn't he me? It's just a wholesome activity, and that's the point of it, is to get rid of, not get rid of, but to kind of understand that it's not a metaphysical, spiritual mumbo jumbo thing. It's a very practical thing that anybody can do right here, right now. And we can use our breath as a doorway to say everything's okay, to help us gladden the mind here, nurturing thoughts. And also, if I'm looking at a statue, what I'm really looking at is the earth, another element, just like the breath, the wind. So it's really the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like when you're, you know, bowing before the Buddha, it is, again, it's coming back to that recollection of gratitude, which gladdens and brightens the mind right there, right? And is also helps to come back to that satisfaction to this is enough. But it's not like, oh yes, I am praying to the Buddha and the Buddha is smiling down on me from heaven, and he's going to bestow some power tools upon me so that I can get this fence done a lot quicker.
Please, Buddha, make my drill work. It's ran out of juice.
But
Please,
yeah. So
send me to Walmart, Lord Buddha.
Then you go by like the, what is it, lawn section or whatever, and there's just a whole bunch of Buddhas lined up there.
I could use some of those. That'd be nice. Too expensive though. I would always want to make my own, even though I haven't done it yet. But this Buddha over here I ordered from Amazon, like everything else in my life, and its head broke off, but I kind of liked it because it kind of was like a little reminder of like no mind, no problem, And it, interestingly enough, on the inside of the Buddha statue, it was like this quartz type of rock, which I was surprised because it's just a cheap Amazon thing.
Yeah.
But it was a lovely surprise. I'm like, I never would have discovered that if the Buddha's head didn't break off on that thing. But now it sits atop it. It's not glued or anything. But isn't that an interesting? That's like a little mini noble eightfold path practice right there. The Buddha's head falls off, but then I can be thankful that I got to see the beautiful quartz crystals that were inside of the statue that I didn't even know existed. And it's kind of like inside all of us that if we live by societal standards, we don't realize that we don't need anything other than what's here right now. And then when we discover that, that's the Om Mani Padme Hum, behold the beautiful jewel within the lotus, Well, guys, you're awesome. I got to go run some errands, unfortunately, so I have to end it a little shorter than usual.
All right. Thank you, Dhammadasa.
Yeah, it was wonderful seeing you guys, like always. And nice meeting you, Raul.
Nice meeting you too, Dhammadasa.
Hopefully I say it right.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, Raul.
You guys are awesome. Peace and love. Adios, dudes.